Samuel Anyanwu emerges PDP candidate for Imo State governorship election as party declares Doye Diri winner in Bayelsa State. Court sets aside All Progressives Congress ward and local government congresses in Kogi State. In Oyo State, House of Assembly confirms nomination of Justice Shubulade Yerima as substantive chief judge. And on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden praises a signing of landmark Good Friday Agreement during speech in Belfast. Good evening. This is the news at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olanipekun. The National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Samuel Anyanwu, has emerged a PDP governorship candidate for the November 11th Imo State governorship election. These followed the PDP's primary held today at the State Secretariat in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Senator Anyanwu is expected to challenge the re-election of Governor Hope Uzodimma of the All Progressives Congress APC. Meanwhile, a former governor of the state, Emeka Ihedioha, was absent at the primary. It will be recalled that Mr. Ihedioha had a few weeks ago pulled out of the PDP governorship race. In January 2020, the Supreme Court sacked him as the governor of Imo State after barely 7 months in office.
Party guidelines, the constitution of a great party PDP, and above all, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I, Right Honorable Kele Tukolo, the chairman of the panel, on behalf of other members of the panel, hereby declare the previous Senator Samuel
In the meantime, Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri has been declared winner of the People's Democratic Party PDP governorship primary to contest the November 11th governorship election. Governor Diri, who was the sole aspirant, polled a total of 305 yes votes from the delegates to emerge as the party's candidate. The primary held at the Gabriel Okara Cultural Center, Yenagoa. The chairman of the Bayelsa State Gubernatorial Primary Committee and Governor of Osun State, Senator Ademola Adeleke, urged the people of the state to support the party during the forthcoming governorship poll. He expressed happiness that the committee was able to conduct free and fair primary in the state, urging members to unite to ensure the victory of the party.
I ain't done yet. Having satisfied the requirements of this election and having scored the highest number of votes, I, Senator Ademola Jackson Nuruddin Adeleke, by the power vested in me as the chairman, Chief Returning Officer, I repeat, Chief Returning Officer. It sounds so good. I'm now retaliating. You know, Bayelsa and Osun said that we are now brothers. Am I talking? You do me, I do you. As the Chief Returning Officer, I hereby declare Senator Doye Diri as the winner of the election, and therefore return him as the candidate of the PDP in the November 2023 election. Congratulations, PDP!
The Federal High Court in Abuja has set aside a ward and local government congresses purportedly conducted on February 7th by the All Progressives Congress APC in Kogi State. The congresses were for the purpose of nominating APC's governorship candidate for the November 11th gubernatorial polls. Justice James Omotosho voided the two congresses on the grounds that they were not conducted in compliance with the Electoral Act 2022 and the party's constitution. Justice Omotosho also barred the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC from recognizing the unlawful delegates list that emanated from the unlawful congresses. And while the All Progressives Congress APC has adopted the direct mode of primaries for the conduct of the governorship primary election in Kogi State, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC had fixed November 11th, 2023 for the conduct of the governorship election. The party informed INEC as well as aspirants of its decision to adopt the direct mode. In a letter by the acting national chairman, Senator Abubakar Kyari, the party added that the date for the conduct of the primary election remains Friday, April 14th, 2023. And moving on, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC says the candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, did not meet the constitutional requirement to be declared winner of the February 25th presidential election. Standard bearer of the All Progressives Congress APC, Bola Tinubu, was declared the winner of the presidential poll with 8.79 million votes. Challenging Senator Tinubu's victory, Mr. Abubakar and the PDP claimed that the APC candidate was not qualified to contest the election. The PDP candidate wants the tribunal to nullify Senator Tinubu's victory and withdraw the certificate of return issued to him. In a preliminary objection, INEC urged the tribunal to dismiss the petition by Mr. Abubakar and his party. INEC submitted that the APC candidate met all legal requirements, adding that a candidate must not secure 25% votes and the FCT to be declared winner because the FCT was not accorded any special status in the Constitution. In the meantime, the All Progressives Congress APC has given insight to the circumstances that led its candidate and President-elect Bola Tinubu to forfeit the sum of $460,000 to the government of the United States in 1993 following a drug trafficking allegation. In its processes filed at the presidential election petition court, the party maintained that Senator Tinubu merely surrendered funds in 10 bank accounts that were opened in either his name or that of Compass Finance and Investment Company. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, had challenged the announcement of Senator Tinubu as the winner of the election, stating amongst other things that the APC candidate was not qualified to contest the election. He says Senator Tinubu forfeiture of his funds to the U.S. government over a drug trafficking allegation was an indication that he engaged in infractions that were enough to disqualify him from contesting an election. The APC, however, told the tribunal that funds in the said accounts, which were domiciled in 2 commercial banks, are subject to a civil forfeiture. In Kano State, the All Progressives Congress APC has asked the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal to declare the March 18th election in the state inconclusive. The party is challenging the declaration of Abba Kabir Yusuf of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) as the winner of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC). In a 5-volume petition, the APC alleged that Mr. Kabir Yusuf of the NNPP was not qualified to contest the election on the grounds that his name was not on the list of members of NNPP sent to INEC. The APC alleged that NNPP did not win the election with the majority of lawful votes, arguing that some of the votes cast were invalid, and if removed from the scores, APC will have the highest number of votes cast. Elsewhere, the chairperson of the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC), Loretta Onoche, has dismissed her purported suspension by the All Progressives Congress APC leadership in her ward in Delta State. Last week, Ms. Onoche was supposedly suspended by the party's leadership in Onitsha, Olona, Ward 4, under the Aniocha North local government area of Delta State, citing alleged anti-party activities. However, while addressing journalists today, she insisted the alleged suspension was initiated by a total stranger rather than her ward leaders, saying it therefore does not stand. Similarly, the chairman of the ward, Emmanuel Onweazim, denied the suspension, urging the public to disregard the allegation. The rebuttal comes amidst Ms. Onoche's thank you visits to her ward, saying the ward members actively participated in a just concluded general election. The Obi Dati Presidential Campaign Office has revealed how the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, was harassed by immigration officers at Heathrow Airport, United Kingdom. In a statement today, spokesman for the campaign council, Diron Onifade, said the former Anambra State governor was detained and questioned for a duplication offense, which suggests that someone has been impersonating Mr. Obi in London. According to Mr. Onifade, the LP's presidential candidate, who is just back from London, where he celebrated Easter, was saved by the spontaneous reaction of Nigerians at Heathrow Airport. He asserted that the high implication of the offense is that the impersonator could be committing all kinds of weighty crimes and other dubious acts, and it to be recorded in Mr. Obi's name. The Obi Dati Media Office said its principal has been under all kinds of attacks since the February 25, 2023 presidential election. Mr. Onifade added that in the meantime, Mr. Obi is back in the country and has continued his charity work, visiting health and educational institutions, making donations, and bagging awards. And here in Osun State, beneficiaries of the Imole Free Surgical and Medical Outreach have expressed their gratitude to Governor Ademola Adeleke for deeming it fit to organize the free health outreach in the state. Olayinka Ali was at the State Hospital at Ashubiaro, Oshogbo today, where the final leg of the outreach commenced, and files in this report.
As the cost of medical care continues to soar amidst the harsh socioeconomic reality, some residents of Oshogbo today heaved a collective sigh of relief thanks to the Imole Free Surgical and Medical Outreach by the State Governor Ademola Adeleke. Some of the medical needs, including surgeries, checkups, and distributions of drugs, were met. Targeted at 18,000 people across the state's 9 federal constituencies, the program, which kicked off at the Iwo General Hospital, was supposed to come to an end on Thursday, April 13th, at the State Hospital at Ashubiaro, but looks like what will be postponed till Saturday, April 15th, because of the large turnout of participants. Some cross-sections of beneficiaries in their separate submission described the outreach as timely.
Somebody now called me that there's a free surgery in Ashubiaro, I should go there. So and I come here, and I said that is true. So and I see the doctor and I said that we should go and do test. So we do test, we give the doctor. The doctor tell us that we should come today. We should come and do the surgery today. I want to thank the governor that Almighty Allah will bless the governor. The governor will live long because I really appreciate it. I don't have any money before. As the boy was complaining that the place is paining him, me and his father we were crying that where we do get the money now. So as we come here, we say that he's free. I'm really happy.
I want to appreciate him. I'm really grateful. Wọ́n ṣe gan ni.
Mo gbàwọ́ ọ̀kan lọ́wọ́ wa. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ wọn ní oore tán ṣe fún wa. A lè gbàgbé wọn, wọ́n máa lòkè o.
While speaking to a news team, Chief Medical Director of the Uni Osun Teaching Hospital and Chairman Imole Medical and Surgical Outreach Committee, Professor Peter Olaiton, said the outreach touched lives in a meaningful way, stating that the turnout of beneficiaries was massive and impressive, and there were enough medical team on ground.
The beginning of the last part of the program, we had hoped to have 2 days in each federal constituency. So we were planning that we will have today and tomorrow. However, with a massive number of turnout, we may not be able to round up until Saturday. We have close to 3,000 people for eye problems only, and we have created a lot of people for surgery. So we do not think that tomorrow we would have been able to exhaust all this. We have booked over 1,200 people for eye alone before yesterday, and this morning again people came from all over part of the state to still join, knowing fully well that this is going to be the end of the program. Let me put it this way: a lot of people come out for the eye surgery. A lot of people come up for problem of medical issues. So we have more people really in the medical as well as the eye. Today, from what we have seen here today, it's actually the eye that we have overwhelming number of people, over 3,000 people, and people are still trooping in.
Professor Olaiton assured the beneficiaries that the Imole Free Surgical and Medical Outreach will continue to Saturday, April 15th, 2023. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
You're watching news at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, Oyo State House of Assembly confirms nomination of Justice Shubulade Yerima as substantive Chief Judge. We'll bring you more on these when we return.
Prince Royal was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her Imperial Majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history.
You're welcome back. This is still news at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. Samuel Anyanwu-Imaje's PDP candidate for Imo State governorship election as party declares Doye Diri winner in Bayelsa State. Court sets aside all Progressives Congress ward and local government congresses in Kogi State. In Oyo State, House of Assembly confirms nomination of Justice Shibulade Yerima as substantive chief judge. And on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden praises signing of landmark Good Friday Agreement during speech in Belfast. In Oyo State, the judiciary, the House of Assembly today confirmed the nomination of Justice Shibulade Yerima as the substantive chief judge of the state. Justice Yerima has been in acting capacity as the chief judge of the state since January 16th, when her predecessor, Justice Muntara Bimbola, retired. The confirmation of her appointment was presided over by the Deputy Speaker, Abiodun Fadeyi. While addressing members of the House of Assembly, Justice Yerima said she would do her best to ensure a new judiciary in Oyo State. Member-elect for Chibok constituency in the Borno State House of Assembly, Nuhu Clark, has died in an Indian hospital. According to younger sister to the deceased member-elect, Ladi Clark, he died after battling an illness in an Indian hospital yesterday night. Mr. Clark was a former chairman of the Chibok local government area under Senator Alimadu Sheriff's administration. He was also the immediate past commissioner for poverty alleviation in the Governor Babagana Zulum administration before he voluntarily resigned to contest the state assembly election. And now to security. Following the uptick in cases of mob actions resulting in loss of lives and property, calls have been made to the government and relevant authorities to step efforts to nip them in the bud. This is just as police have begun investigations into two separate incidents in Ondo and Osun State. Emmanuel Ojadigele completes the story.
What began as a normal Easter Monday for 22-year-old Temitope Olorunfemi and his family quickly turned into misery as the young man was stoned and clubbed to death by an angry mob comprising commercial motorcycle riders at Ijoka area of Akure, Ondo State. He had unfortunately lost control of his vehicle, killing a commercial motorcycle rider and injuring others in the process. A day later, at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State, a 28-year-old 500-level student, Ahinze Okoli, was lynched over allegations of phone theft. His was under a practice in the university titled Scientific Maximum Shishi, a code name for torturing students accused of committing any offense. These two incidents in less than 3 days have again shone the spotlight on the phenomenon known as jungle justice. Not only are lives lost, families and loved ones of victims are often thrown into disarray and untold pain in the aftermath. Speaking on Morning Spring, a Western Spring television news and current affairs program, a legal practitioner and human rights activist Moses Obadita says jungle justice has been on for far too long because of government inaction.
So when you are beginning to promote, either directly or indirectly, that kind of the strong can oppress the weak, you will eventually realize that the society is moving to that nasty, brutish, and waste kind of life. So it is never in our culture, it is never in our constitution that you can take laws into your hand. But when the law or when there's a governance that does not frown at violation of its own law, when there's no sanction for violation of existing law, people will think that was the norm. And that is why where we are.
Obadita describes it as a perversion of justice while committing a crime in the name of bringing criminals to book.
But when you make law without application, people will turn the country into jungle justice. And that is the reason why we're having what we're having. Because we know, I've given you one of three people where the three instances where people are killed, they are not even charged to court, and that will be the end of the story. So this cannot continue like that. And sometimes you even hear Yahoo boy kill his girlfriend. You only hear that story, and as long as the money is still available, that will be the end of the story. So these are the things that promote. It's not because our culture, it is a new, whatever I call it, norm. It's a new thing that's coming because power is responsible, but people are now using power for irresponsible purposes.
To solve this problem and tackle the menace of jungle justice, Mr. Obadita advocates prosecution of perpetrators.
If people who decide because this man is a kidnapper or alleged Yahoo boys and you kill them, what the law should do is that those who did that act should be arrested because they are not the courts. Only the court has power to even carry out an execution order. And so when you look around and people say they did not know the law, they did not know the law. If they have killed him or killed their son, would they not know the law? So because the society have allowed it, because the society have degenerated.
In the Obafemi Awolowo University, the school management has condemned the heinous act, but this has not stopped colleagues of the deceased from embarking on the protest. In Ondo, the police command confirmed the arrest of two suspects alleged to be involved in the mob justice. Police spokesperson SP Fumilayo Dulami said one of the suspects allegedly masterminded the burning of Olorunfemi's car, adding that they would be prosecuted for murder and arson. Emmanuel Ujadigele, Western Spring Television News.
Police authorities in Ondo State say they are investigating the case of a military officer named Tokwe Kazeem, who allegedly stabbed one person, Bomi Amodile, in Akure, the state capital. The soldier, who is serving at the 32 Artillery Brigade, Owena Barracks in Akure, was reported to have stabbed the victim severally at the back and other parts of the body with a knife. The victim is in a critical condition at an undisclosed hospital. Public Relations Officer of the Ondo State Police Command, SP Fumilayo Odunlami Omisoya, noted that the incident is being investigated by the police, adding that further details would be made available to the public as soon as possible. And turning to Ogun State, two suspected Lagos-based robbers have been arrested by operatives of the State Police Command after they unleashed terror on the residents of Ijebu-Ode. The suspected robbers were reported to have been terrorizing the people of Ijebu-Ode and its environs in recent times. In a statement, Police Public Relations Officer in the state, Abimbola Oyeyemi, explained that the suspects Muyiwa Adebola and Lukman Ogumuyiwa were arrested following a distress call received at the Igbeba Divisional Headquarters Ijebu-Ode on the 26th of March 2023. He said Nemesis caught up with them when a 6-man gang invaded a new site in Imoru, Ijebu, and held people of the area hostage. The PPRO said the suspects have been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for discreet investigation. On the foreign scene, United States President Joe Biden has praised the signing of the landmark Good Friday Agreement that ended the violence in Northern Ireland 25 years ago this week. Mr. Biden made this known in his speech at the Ulster University in Belfast, noting that the Northern Ireland was transformed and made whole by the peace deal. He pledged that the U.S. will continue to be Northern Ireland's partner in building the future that the young people of the world deserve. Mr. Biden explained that there is a large population in the U.S. that cares about what happens in Northern Ireland. He had earlier met with party leaders in Northern Ireland after holding a meeting with the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak this morning. After the speech, Mr. Biden left Belfast for the Republic of Ireland, where he is expected to meet with the Republic's president. Ukraine has asked India for more medicines, medical equipment, as well as inviting Indian companies to help rebuild the war-torn country. Ukraine made its request during a 4-day visit to India by First Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Emini Zaparova, which ended this morning. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs made this known in a statement, adding that Ms. Zaparova handed over a letter from President Volodymyr Zelensky to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Ms. Zaparova's visit was the first by a high-ranking official from Ukraine since Russia launched its invasion of our country in February last year. Ms. Zaparova, in comments to the media during her visit, said Ukraine wanted India to be more involved in helping resolve the conflict and was looking forward to welcoming Mr. Modi to Kyiv.
May play a greater role. We respect the decisions of sovereign country, India, to build up relations with other countries. It's about you to decide, it's about you to benefit, it's about you to construct. But the message of Ukraine is that there should be consideration of pragmatic approach. And then being with Russia, and we are again very sincere saying so, is actually being at the wrong side of the history. So kind of supporting Russia and being with Russia means that it is to be in the middle evil visionary picture. I think that your country is now also going through a dynamic change in all of the spheres. India has been actively building up everything, society, economy, like everything. So I think that it might also take some time to build up new relations with Ukraine, and I think that it should be based on a pragmatic and balanced approach.
In Africa, 10 people trying to reach Europe have drowned off the coast of Tunisia after their boat was wrecked at sea. Coast Guard says 72 of those on board, all of whom were from sub-Saharan Africa, were rescued near the port city of Sfax. Tunisia has taken over from Libya as the main departure point for people fleeing poverty and conflict in Africa and the Middle East. Tunisia's National Guard says 14,000 migrants have been rescued in the first 3 months of the year, 5 times more than in the same period last year. And in the meantime, Italy's far-right government has declared a 6-month state of emergency following a sharp rise in the number of migrants crossing the Mediterranean Sea. This report takes a look at the development and how it affects the European Union.
2022 figures published by European Border Security Agency Frontex suggests significant challenges lie ahead for the European Union over migration. The EU has seen migration flows along several routes, including the Western Balkans, the Eastern Mediterranean, and the Central Mediterranean. Despite the Brexit decision partly made to address migration, there are also substantial numbers of migrants still seeking to illegally cross the English Channel into the United Kingdom, not to talk of Africans trying to cross over to Europe through the Sahara, Morocco, and other routes, with Italy being a regular destination for many migrants. 31,000 people have either been rescued or landed on Italy's shores since the start of 2023. The figure is 4 times more than the same period last year and the year before. Apparently, the migrants' crisis is surging once again in Italy. On Monday, Italian Coast Guard welcomed not less than 1,200 migrants. Meanwhile, 400 people on a fishing boat off the coast are yet to be helped. Lampedusa Island is close to Tunisia, which has become the biggest point of departure for migrants' boats. reports in recent months. The journey is mostly dangerous with a lot of casualty records, but a shorter route. According to the International Organization for Migration, more than 26,000 people have died or gone missing at sea in the central Mediterranean since 2014. Experts have pinned the increased migration numbers to factors such as local, regional, or national crisis, human rights violations, hunger, and economic hardships that prompt migrants to leave their homelands. However, this development comes with social crisis in the transit and receiving countries. Illegal immigration, for instance, may fuel overpopulation, population displacement, inadequate infrastructures, and political issues such as populism. To tackle this menace, Italian ministers have now called a 6-month state of emergency in response to the rise in migrant numbers crossing the Mediterranean from North Africa. The decision would reportedly free up 5 million euros and coincides with the arrival of 3,000 migrants in 3 days. Italy's Sea and Civil Protection Minister Nello Musumeci spoke of a 300% increase in migrant flows and said it was an absolute emergency that had put Italy's infrastructure at risk. He stated that the European country is experiencing the phenomenon in a new landmark records. While he lamented the highlands alone cannot deal with the state of emergency, the minister stressed that a state of emergency may not solve the problem and would require a responsible intervention by the European Union. Besides extra funding, it is unclear how the Italian measure will tackle rising numbers in the Mediterranean. But reports say officials will be able to speed up reception procedures and repatriation of those not allowed to remain in Italy, meaning several migrants will have to be deported to their host nations. It would be recalled Italy's new far-right leader, Giorgia Meloni, last year stressed her aim to halt migrants' boats crossing the Mediterranean. Also, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola and some permanent representatives from the Czech Republic, Sweden, Spain, Belgium, and France recently agreed to conduct negotiations to reform the EU's migration and asylum rules by February 2024. This step reinforces the European Commission's proposal in September 2020 for the new Pact on Migration and Asylum to improve procedures, share responsibilities fairly among member states, and act together in managing migration flows. However, actions have so far not lived up to words. It is only hoped that Italy's 6-month emergency response will bring a respite to the worrisome development. Ajibike and Jory Ojo, Western Spring Television News.
Still ahead, the federal government will procure and install baggage scanners in train stations from Vasin, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano cities. We have more on these and other business stories after this break. Please do stay with us.
The history of guns is traced to China. The Chinese had developed a technology civilization that produced devices identified as guns at about 1000 AD. By the end of the 13th century, the devices had become true guns and described as metal barrel firearms that fired single projectiles which occluded the barrel. When did gun become an instrument of war? The first battles to be decided by firearms were between French and Spanish soldiers. The early 16th century warfare included Magnano in 1515, Bicocca in 1522, and Pavia in 1525. The wars were fought in Italy. The gun is a weapon of destruction and death, but humanity sees it as a potent instrument of family destruction. People with guns feel safer even if they don't display it. Western Spring Television identifies history of guns as a watershed event in history. Born 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kuan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used its political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 Naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Welcome back. And now to business. The federal government has approved 6.28 billion naira for surface maintenance of the Third Mainland Bridge, Lagos State. Minister of Works and Housing Babatunde Fashola will brief the State House correspondents after today's Federal Executive Council meeting at the Presidential Villa. Said the 24-month repair will cover 11 kilometers, including interchanges, ramps, and critical links. He said the move aligns with Executive Order 11 signed by President Muhammadu Buhari in April 2022, which gave legal backing to the country's national maintenance policy. The announcement comes barely 2 weeks after the Lagos State government said it would undertake rehabilitation works at the 32-year-old bridge to repair failed and peeled asphalt sections and structure. However, Mr. Fashola argued that there will be no duplication of efforts. The former Lagos State governor said the state's Public Works Corporation will focus on the functional structure of the bridge, such as the underwater piles, while the federal government will undertake surface maintenance to treat potholes and restore missing guardrails. In the meantime, the federal government will procure and install baggage scanners in train stations traversing Abuja, Kaduna, Kano cities. Minister of State for Transportation Ademola Adegoroye disclosed this today after a weekly Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the State House, Abuja. According to him, the devices are necessary because of the need to enhance security of lives and property in the railway facilities. United States consumer inflation slowed in March, but remained well above the Federal Reserve's target level despite numerous interest rate hikes over the last year. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the rate of inflation year-over-year fell to 5% last month from 6% in February, the smallest 12-month increase since May 2021. The report showed a 0.1% increase in March over the prior month on a seasonally adjusted basis, much lower than the 0.4% reading in February and also below the 0.3% that had been expected by analysts. Nottingham Forest have sacked sporting director Filippo Giraldi after only 6 months with the club. The Italian joined in October after Forest made a British record 22 signings in the summer, overseeing their January transfer window spending. Forest, who have won only once since January, said Giraldi left amicably. Last year, owner Evangelos Marinakis said results must improve immediately under the manager Steve Cooper. Forest dropped into the Premier League relegation zone on Saturday as a 2-0 defeat at Aston Villa extended their winless run to 9 games. And Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has confirmed that both Alejandro Garnacho and Luke Shaw would miss tomorrow's Europa League quarter-final tie at home to Sevilla. Ten Hag made this known during his pre-game press conference, adding that Garnacho's injury is more severe, while Shaw is expected back very soon. When queried on the status of Marcus Rashford, Ten Hag said he did not know when the England striker will return. The Manchester United manager added that English defender Harry Maguire is in contention to start the game.
I think he's for every game. He's in contention because he's a very good player, and we have seen on Saturday how good he is, and also in the team cohesion. He was doing really well, so he's always in contention. But we have more. I think I'm happy how my team is defending. I think we're defending with 11, and we have a great goalie, and that gives us and brings us so many clean sheets, and we are happy with that. But we have to do it every game. We know that, and we have to keep the discipline in defending and pressing in the defense transition, especially in defending the set plays. And I think we're making good progress, but we have to keep that process going. And because we are not satisfied, we want to do more. And we know if you want to win leagues, if you want to win competitions, clean sheets is also always the base of it.
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Samuel Anyanwu, has emerged the party's governorship candidate for the November 11th Imo State governorship election, while Bayelsa State Governor Doye Diri has been declared the winner of the PDP governorship primary in the state. The Federal High Court in Abuja has set aside the ward and local government congresses purportedly conducted on February 7th by the All Progressives Congress APC in Kogi State. And in Oyo State, the House of Assembly today confirmed the nomination of Justice Shubulade Yerima as a substantive chief judge of the state. And the foreign, the United States President Joe Biden has praised the signing of the landmark Good Friday Agreement that ended the violence in Northern Ireland 25 years ago this week. Please do follow us on all of our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olanipeku. Good evening.